We all buy things every single day. But have you ever really stopped to think about how buying a coffee for yourself is a completely different universe from how a massive company buys, say, an entire IT system? Well, today, we're cracking that very code, the two completely different worlds of the consumer and the company buyer.
Think about it like this. You need a new laptop. You'll probably check a few reviews online, compare some prices, maybe pick a color you really like, and boom, you click buy. Simple. Now, flip that around. Imagine you're an IT manager and you've been tasked with buying 500 laptops for your entire company. Suddenly, the color doesn't matter so much, does it? Now it's all about security specs, bulk pricing, long-term maintenance contracts, and getting the green light from 3 different departments. It's the same product, but it's a totally different game. And this, right here, is the heart of what we're digging into. Understanding these two buyers and just how profoundly different they are is the absolute key to everything in marketing and sales. They operate on different principles, they follow completely different paths, and they care about completely different things. So before we dive deep, let's just get a bird's eye view of the core differences. For you and me, the scale is small, 1 or 2 items. But for a company, it's massive. Our relationship with a seller is usually just a one-off transaction, while they're looking for long-term partners. Our motivation often has a lot of emotion tied into it, while theirs is supposed to be way more rational. And that means the whole process is way more complex. And the risk? Well, it's just so much higher when millions of dollars are on the line. Okay, let's start with the character we all know best, the individual consumer. This is you, this is me, our friends, basically anyone buying stuff for their own personal use. This is our personal shopping quest. Our journey is usually pretty straightforward, right? First, you realize you need or want something, that, oh, my phone is so slow moment. Then you start gathering info. Maybe you ask your friends, you read some online reviews. After that, you're weighing your options, brand A or brand B. And finally, you pull the trigger and make the purchase. It's a path we follow almost without thinking. But what's really fascinating is that this simple process is actually being pulled and pushed by this powerful mix of forces. Your own personal taste and your lifestyle matter a whole lot. Social pressure from friends, family, even your culture plays a huge role. Smart marketing taps directly into these things, these psychological triggers. Heck, even the state of the economy can determine whether you decide to splurge or save. It's this wild mix of what's going on inside our heads and what the world is throwing at us. So let's switch gears and move to our next character, which isn't really a single person at all. When we talk about an organizational buyer, we're really talking about a professional team, a team on a mission with a very specific business goal in mind. And this brings us to a super important concept, the decision-making unit, or DMU for short. See, in a company, the choice to buy something rarely ever comes down to one person's whim. No way. It's a group effort. It's a decision made by a whole collection of people who all have a stake in the outcome. And inside this DMU, this committee, everyone plays a different role. You've got the initiator, the person who first raises their hand and says, hey, we've got a problem here. Then you have the influencer, who is often a tech expert, saying, okay, whatever we buy, it absolutely needs to do X, Y, and Z. You've got the decider, the one who actually controls the budget and gives the final yes. Then there's the buyer, who handles all the contracts and paperwork. And you can't forget the user, the actual person on the ground who has to work with the product every day. It's this whole web of interests, and it's a process that's supposed to be rational, but the people in it, they're still human. And as you can probably guess, their process is way more formal. It starts similarly by recognizing a problem, but then it gets incredibly structured. They determine exact specifications, they search for qualified suppliers, they analyze super detailed proposals, and then, and this was key, after the purchase, there's a formal evaluation to see if the supplier actually delivered on their promises. It's not a sprint, it's a deliberate, multi-stage marathon. So, we've met the players and we've seen their playbooks. Now, let's put them side by side to see what truly motivates them. And believe me, this is where the two worlds really diverge. I mean, just look at this. The contrast is crystal clear. As consumers, we're driven by this mix of things. Getting good value, of course, but also social status, what's trendy, and just pure personal taste. Organizations, on the other hand, are laser-focused on rational stuff. They're thinking about total quality, the lifetime cost of a product, not just its sticker price, and maybe most importantly, reducing risk for the company. But hey, this is just the beginning. The world of organizational purchasing isn't static. It's constantly evolving. There are new strategies popping up that are making the whole process even more sophisticated and totally reshaping the future of how businesses work together. So,
One of the biggest trends is something called centralized purchasing. Instead of letting every department buy its own stuff, specialists in one central office handle it all. This lets them build up some seriously deep expertise and focus on creating strong, long-term relationships with suppliers. The goal isn't just about short-term cost savings anymore. It's about building these long-term strategic partnerships.
And now for a concept that I think is just brilliant, because it shows how much the power has shifted. In traditional marketing, sellers are out there hunting for buyers, right? Well, in reverse marketing, the buyer does the hunting. A company with a very specific need will actively seek out a supplier and say, hey, we need you to build this for us, and it has to be to our exact specifications. The customer is literally in the driver's seat. And we're seeing other trends pushing this even further. First, there's more systems purchasing. That's where companies buy a complete solution, not just a bunch of individual parts. They're also leasing more, which gives them access to super expensive equipment without that huge upfront cost. And finally, they are investing so heavily in relationship management, treating their key suppliers less like vendors and more like genuine long-term partners.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here, from the lone shopper picking out a new shirt to the corporate committee deciding on a multi-million-dollar deal. Let's bring it all together for one clear final takeaway. So, what's the bottom line? What's the one thing you have to remember? It's this: selling and persuasion are never, ever one size fits all. Whether you're appealing to a consumer who's driven by emotion or a committee focused on long-term value, your success depends entirely on one thing: deeply understanding who you are talking to and what they truly, truly care about.
And that leaves us with a final little question for you to think about. The next time you make a purchase, doesn't matter if it's a new phone or a new car, just take a second. Are you making the decision based on emotion, on taste, on what your friends have? Or are you analyzing the long-term cost, the quality, and the potential risks? In other words, are you thinking more like a consumer or a company?